Welcome to Hamburgers Horror, the home to meat, monsters, and magic puzzle boxes. As always, it's Noah, and today we're looking at Hellraiser Hellseeker, the 6th movie in our journey through Hellraiser. Hellseeker was released in 2002, 2 years after Inferno. It follows Trevor as he wakes up from an accident and finds his wife to be missing, and his wife just happens to be Kirsty fucking Cotton. Hellseeker was directed by BOTA, who is mostly a cinematographer and director for television. He was the cinematographer for House on Haunted Hill and a ton of Tales from the Crypt episodes, and has directed episodes of The Vampire Diaries and Supernatural, as well as The Happy Face Killer, Blood Fist 3, and of course the next 2 Hellraisers after this one, Deader and Hellworld. BOTA had the script rewritten to include Kirsty Cotton, who had been absent from the series since her cameo in Hell on Earth. Initially, it appeared Ashley Lawrence wouldn't be able to reprise the role, but Doug Bradley was apparently the one who talked her into returning. After filming completed, BOTA decided, against the wishes of the studio, to screen a work print of the film for Clive Barker, who provided notes and suggestions for the film's 3rd act. But the film's original climax, the one written by Bradley, was ultimately edited out of the film. Hellseeker is the last Hellraiser to have any input from Barker. Hellseeker, which is a stupid name I might add, had a budget of around $3 million. Hellseeker is definitely far from beloved, with its Rotten Tomatoes score once again managing to be the lowest so far. And I would say it's earned. Hellseeker is pretty rough. It is confirmed this script was not originally a Hellraiser script, and it shows a lot more than it does in Inferno. It also just feels like a shittier Inferno. In my last review, I said I would love a bunch of Inferno-type Hellraisers where people in hell are being mentally tortured by the Cenobites, but I have to admit now that I was wrong. That is basically what they did with Hellseeker, and it is annoyingly obvious right from the start. But it does have a few new twists to keep you interested, so let's jump into Hellseeker, shall we? We open on, a quote. Cool. After some actually decent credits, we meet Trevor, played by Dean Winters, and our queen, Kirsty Cotton. They're laughing and messing with each other and are clearly in love. They acknowledge they have had some issues lately, but are both invested in fixing it. While they're in the middle of one of those mid-drive kisses that no real human does, Trevor slips into the other lane. They nearly hit another car and go flying off the very visible ramps and into the water. The car starts filling up and Trevor is able to escape. He comes up for air, leaving Kirsty in the car. Once he gets a couple breaths in, he dives back down, but the car door is locked and Kirsty drowns. But then Trevor wakes up in the hospital. Twice. And is greeted by Dr. Alison Dormier, who is very sweet as she gives him a sedative. Trevor passes out, only to wake up in the middle of brain surgery, where the doctor is talking about unlocking memories as he pushes a giant pin into his brain. But he wakes back up and is still with Allison. Must have been a dream, right? Another doctor shows up, and despite Allison's concern, releases him. Trevor asks where Kirsty is just in time for Detective Lang, played by William S. Taylor, to make his appearance. The detective reminds Trevor that Kirsty is missing and presumed dead. Trevor is very confused by that as he saw her die inside the car. He offers to take the detective to the scene and walk him through it, but the detective says they did that over a month ago. So this hospital scene isn't after the crash, it's like a month later and Trevor bumped his head or passed out or something, I'm not sure. But it's the supposed head bump that's caused his amnesia, not the crash. The detective also says the car doors were unlocked when they pulled up the car, which is why they suspect foul play, I guess, because it contradicts Trevor's story. It isn't outright stated by Lang, but they think Trevor murdered Kirsty and staged the crash as some sort of cover-up. Trevor hops on the bus, where a metal head refuses to turn his music down, giving Trevor a headache. Trevor gets to his stop, and after getting spooked by a good boy, heads into his apartment. He falls asleep in a chair while thinking about making coitus with Kirsty. The next day, Trevor heads into work, where his coworkers all give him side-eye. We meet his annoying work buddy Brett, who also seems to be his supervisor, but I'm not sure. He reminds Trevor they're always being watched. Trevor notices a dirty old card pinned up in his cubicle. He remembers having the card when he went to a weird old factory some time ago. The abandoned factory has 2 Asian women, a bald woman maybe wearing a skin bra, meaningless bullshit meant to be creepy. Trevor finds another variation of the derelict, this time played by Doug Bradley. But we cut back to the office before we learn what happens, because nosy-ass Brett suggests Trevor have a snack to prevent headaches. But Trevor didn't know the machine only had wet arms left. He bumps into his boss Gwen. At first she seems pissed, but then we see that's just her way of being kinky. She tries to give him a break room blowjob as he remembers he has been cheating on Kirsty with her, but I guess Amnesia Trevor is a better and more rational person than regular Trevor and stops this horrible interaction. Trevor gets back to his cubicle when he sees security cam footage of what just happened in the break room on his computer. He X's out of it, wouldn't want to be caught doing something inappropriate on a work device. He then looks over a newspaper headline about the crash while he talks to Detective Lang on the phone, who would like him to come down to the station. But Lang pretty much has nothing new on the case, he's just continuing to let Trevor know he's suspicious. Trevor gets off the bus again, but this time he's not alone. Even the big dog is spooked by this masked janitor-looking dude. Trevor peeps out his window and sees the man is watching from the building across from him, but then he starts coughing up water and convulsing, and he ends up spitting out a big, tasty eel. But this also appears to not be real, as a knock on the door snaps him back to reality, and the man and the eel are gone. At the door is his neighbor Tawny and her new belly tattoo. It's quickly clear he also cheated on Kirsty with her, but he turns her away. Trevor goes to the closet and grabs a box of home videos he took. He plops one in titled Our Crazy Wedding Reception / Honeymoon. From the POV of the camera, he gives Kirsty a present, she opens it, and is happy? No, that doesn't seem right, does it? But the movie is interrupted by another knock on the door, but nobody is there. Damn, kids. Oh wait, it's Trevor's crazy boss Gwen, and she wants to fuck. She pulls out his video camera, which is apparently something they usually do, but just as they're about to get freaky, Trevor once again shoos her away. She calls him an idiot and threatens his upcoming promotion. What a nice lady. But what do I care, Trevor fucking sucks. But what's this? The camera is still rolling, and through the screen Trevor and Gwen are getting it on, even though Gwen is still partially clothed and Trevor is completely clothed. Whatever y'all are into, I guess. Trevor thinks it's some sort of trick, but the camera catches his hand and moves and zooms when he does so. But then Gwen gets a plastic bag put over her head by two new Cenobites, but we only get a glimpse of them. But of course Trevor wakes up at his desk, that all must have been a dream. Yeah, sure. I think by now anyone who has seen Inferno gets the gist by now. Brett insults Trevor's work ethic, but then gives him the info for his acupuncturist. He's like a confusing Sour Patch Kid. We meet Sage, who is doing acupuncture on Trevor's back. This may just be me, but acupuncture is not something I'd go to someone's apartment for, especially if my friend Brett recommended them. He tells her he's been seeing things and randomly remembering things, and bang, he does it again. We're back to his meeting with the derelict. The derelict can tell he's tired of his beautiful, kind wife and knows just the tool for the job. Sage has disappeared and the acupuncture diagram starts getting a bit animated. Well, look who decided to show up. Pinhead pulls out one of his pins and approaches Trevor, and Pinhead says let's end this mess early and jabs the pin right through Trevor's neck. But not even Pinhead is able to stop this train, as Trevor comes to and Sage is back and he isn't impaled. Trevor gets a call from Lang's partner, Detective Givens. And because this is a generic cop script, Givens is here to be the bad cop to Lang's good. He lets Trevor know he thinks he is full of shit and he killed Kirsty. Apparently Kirsty had a ton of inheritance from Larry and Frank and he thinks Trevor killed her to claim it for himself. I'm sorry, you're telling me fucking Frank had a will or even a bank account? Trevor is back in his apartment watching the tape, but this time he gets distracted by a topless woman. Alright, sure. He turns around to see that Tawny, the horny mistress neighbor, has let herself in. She starts undressing, absolutely determined to have sex with this uninterested man. They start having the same semi-clothed type foreplay until all of a sudden he's not kissing Tawny, he's kissing a Cenobite. This is Stitch, and she puts some sort of metal torture mask on Trevor, but of course he fucking wakes up. But he wakes up with blood on his hands, uh-oh. And that blood must belong to that dead woman, uh-oh. Rip Tawny, your sole function in this movie was to be horny. Trevor goes to wash his hands and is greeted by Pinhead, who simply repeats the saying that was on the card, all problems solved. Trevor leaves the bathroom and the dead lady is gone. The Cenobite cleaning service works wonders, even on those tough set-in bloodstains. Trevor goes to Tawny's apartment and she answers the door. She does not recall seeing him last night, and they are interrupted by her absolute unit of a boyfriend who scares Trevor off. Trevor heads back inside only to get a call from Lang. He gets to the station, and outside of Lang's office he can hear Lang and Givens talking, but only Lang comes out with Givens nowhere in sight. Lang asks him about his relationship with Gwen, because yes, she is actually dead. Trevor sees Brett leaving the station, assuming he was here to talk about him. Then a cop makes an origami cube. Then we get to see a little more of the derelict and witness Trevor buy the lament configuration from him. Lang finds him all spaced out and Trevor leaves. Trevor is at the hospital now and he's meeting with Allison, but they talk about nothing really important. He's back at the office and is asking Brett what he said to the police, which he says was nothing they didn't already know. Trevor asks Brett if he thinks he killed Kirsty, not realizing Lang is sitting in his cubicle. Lang shows Trevor the lament configuration, which was found at the crash site. Not sure why they didn't ask him about it a fucking month ago. Apparently the box had blood on it, but once again, this isn't enough evidence for anything aside from bothering Trevor at his workplace. So Lang leaves. Givens. Whoa! What could it mean? Are Lang and Givens the same person? Hellseeker, you have me on the edge of my seat. Now that 12 is gone, Brett wants to talk by the water cooler. Brett keeps talking about a plan, but Trevor doesn't know what he's talking about. Then he gets bombarded with flashbacks that practically explain what's happening, but I will continue keeping it to myself just in case some of y'all haven't figured it out yet. Trevor punches a cabinet, cuts his hand, and leaves. Trevor tries to call Allison, but the hospital says they don't have a doctor by that name, so he obviously goes to see his acupuncturist again. And because Trevor is absolutely irresistible, they get into some not naked foreplay. And okay, I can respect and appreciate that maybe the director or actors and actresses didn't want a bunch of gratuitous nude sex scenes, but this fucking plot revolves around Trevor fucking these women. And it's a fucking Hellraiser movie. Every Hellraiser has weird sex. It's what they're all about. These weird foreplay scenes are just so uncomfortable, but not in the right way. It just feels like a bunch of actors who don't want to do a sex scene, but have to try to do a sex scene. There isn't any chemistry. And y'all still had that completely unnecessary naked woman in that window shot. Whatever, let me get back to the plot. Sage stabs Trevor with an ice pick. We cut to him in an ambulance where the paramedic tells him he passed out on the bus. When he gets to the hospital, he asks for Allison, and they inform him there isn't a doctor by that name there. So he heads to her office only to find this janitor smoking in what is admittedly a funny scene. But then Allison appears, and he tells her he's going crazy. The janitor asks who he is talking to, and Trevor realizes Allison isn't there. And woohoo, he's back on the fucking bus again. He has more headaches and more flashbacks. He heads back to the old factory to find the derelict. He does find Pinhead, but only in puddle form. Trevor comes to the conclusion that Pinhead killed Kirsty, along with Gwen and maybe Tawny. Is Tawny dead? Pinhead does not claim those kills, but says the killer is amongst them. Then Trevor gets followed by the masked guy again until he runs into Brett. Thank God, just what I wanted more of. Brett does us the favor of cluing us in on what's supposed to be happening. Trevor and Brett were indeed going to murder Kirsty so Trevor could claim her inheritance. I don't know why Trevor would give this dipshit any of his murder money. I don't understand what part he plays in that plan, but he thinks Trevor went ahead and killed her by himself and is trying to keep all the money. He is also worried that Lang is onto Trevor and that eventually he'll be onto him as well. So the obvious answer is to gun him down in the street. Psych. The obvious answer is to gun himself down in the street, because Brett is apparently more scared of prison than hell. Oh my god, I hope he doesn't come back. The masked guy shows up and Trevor runs to Sage's apartment? Right, we haven't fucking killed her off yet. Okay, she's dead. Check. Ice pick to the head. Someone is just outside the door, so Trevor arms himself with the ice pick. But it's just Lang, and Trevor looks pretty darn guilty here. Back at the station, Trevor is being interrogated by Lang, witnessing typical police activities, and then being interrogated by Givens. But then we get the announcement Kirsty's body has been found. Some police drag him to another room where Trevor sees pictures of the dead women. I don't know why that was necessary. I think he knew which women they thought he killed, and he was there to see all the bodies. Lang shows back up and takes him to see her body. I don't think they typically show the suspected serial killer the body of one of his victims. regardless of how close they were. We pass that dude who had the loud radio, which offers absolutely nothing, as well as a generic police torture dungeon that also offers absolutely nothing. They head deeper down into the morgue, but Lang locks Trevor on the other side of the bars. Lang makes a weird, out-of-place speech about how everyone is comprised of good and evil, and then Given's head grows out next to his with really shitty effects. And out of all the weird, nonsensical decisions in Hellseeker, this is the one that takes the cake. It doesn't really make sense thematically. Like, am I supposed to be thinking Trevor is a good guy with some bad in him? He's pretty much just bad in my book, and it's just such a lame reveal that didn't change anything. They could have not been attached. Givens could have been completely written out of the movie and nothing would be different. Trevor passes another generic body and finally reaches the morgue, where he sees more generic gore. He finally spots the body, but before he can remove the sheet, the room starts shaking the way it does when Pinhead is about to show up. Nailed it. Pinhead tells him he has reached the end of his journey, but unfortunately for us, there's still about 10 minutes left. Pinhead hooks our piece of shit protagonist. The time has come for Pinhead to completely flesh out what this movie was about. Apparently Trevor bought the box as a means to kill Kirsty for her inheritance. I'm so fucking confused. Did he know what the box specifically did? Did he know Kirsty's history with the box, and he decided to record her opening it? If he thought the box would kill her, why the fuck would he film it? That defeats the purpose of killing her in a way that leaves no evidence. Obviously Kirsty is fucking pissed, but even her reaction to the box isn't what it should be. Why the fuck would she even humor the idea of messing with this thing? But then she agrees to open it. She knows exactly what happens when you open the box. Doesn't make a damn bit of fucking sense. It's not like he had a fucking gun on her or something. So she opens the box, right, and gets taken to Cenobite World and talks to Pinhead. She didn't ask what the fuck happened between here and Hellbound. Well, apparently Kirsty once again was able to make a deal with Pinhead, trading her soul for 5 others. So as you probably know, pretty much all of this movie was just hallucinations and mental torture for Trevor in hell. In reality, that drive before the car crash was not how Trevor remembered it. Kirsty actually shot Trevor, and that's why they flew off the bridge. She also murdered Gwen, Tawny, and Sage because they were his mistresses, as well as Brett for conspiring to murder her. So, a few questions. Kirsty knew Trevor was cheating on her with 3 other women. Kirsty knew Trevor and Brett were conspiring to kill her, but she stuck around long enough for that? And what the fuck did Trevor think when Kirsty returned to Earth? Did a fucking wall just open up and she came back unharmed and they just fucking proceeded as normal? I don't know why the fuck he would get in a car with her after that. And did she kill the others before Trevor or after? The plot would lead me to assume Trevor was the 5th and last soul. So you mean to tell me she opened a demon box and went to hell, came back, your 3 mistresses and co-conspirator all get murdered, and Trevor couldn't piece together that maybe Kirsty has something to do with it? This dumb bitch deserves hell just for being so fucking stupid. Kirsty's deal is also the only other tiny amount we get to see other Cenobites. We get a glimpse of Chatterer 3. I guess Torso counts as number 2, I'm not sure. Apparently this Chatterer was made in the image of the original Chatterer by Leviathan. Cool, I guess, but he doesn't fucking do anything. We have Stitch, who we saw a little bit of, and obviously has stitches on her head. There is Bound, who was on the video suffocating Gwen. Bound is obviously bound by leather and wires. Then there is the Surgeon Cenobite, whose design is actually interesting. His mouth is pried open and he has this weird thing around his head. I'm not sure if he is blinded or not. He also helped suffocate Gwen. That reminds me, as far as I know, Kirsty actually opened up the box and Bound and Surgeon did kill her by suffocation, but I'm not certain about that. It doesn't make sense that Kirsty killed the rest by hand. I'm not even sure how that would work in regards to giving the Cenobites that person's soul. Okay, whatever. I'm done trying to rationalize this clusterfuck of a movie too much. So obviously Trevor is the one who died in the car. He uncovers the sheet to see himself. We cut to after his body was recovered from the car. Officer Lang is there and is comforting Kirsty, believing her ridiculous story that he shot himself while he was driving. Then we see the old guy that was a doctor. He is actually a coroner and removes that big-ass eel from Trevor's throat. Then we see Allison, who is also a coroner, and has a weird hobby of talking sweetly to dead people, hoping it comforts them or some shit like that. So that's why they were characters in the movie, I guess. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Lang shows Kirsty the box to ask what it is. She says it was her anniversary present, and Lang lets her keep it instead of putting it in evidence. Kirsty walks off with the box as Trevor gets bagged up to end the movie. So that is Hellraiser Hellseeker. What a treat that was. I'm not even sure where to start. Each movie I review I watch at least twice just to make sure I'm getting the story and whatnot right. Hellseeker wasn't that bad the first time I watched it through, but my god was it miserable to go through a second time while taking notes. It is just so fucking repetitive. Inferno did the same thing a couple times with the bait and switch, but Hellseeker did it every other scene. Nothing had any consequence, and even if you've never seen it before, most of the plot is just so obvious thanks to all the flashbacks thrown in, so the twist isn't even really a twist. The acting is pretty rough aside from Winters and Bradley, the sets are all shitty, and I genuinely couldn't care less about the characters. They even go and turn Kirsty into a murderer. She wants to kill Trevor, yeah, I'm all for it. I'm even cool with her killing Brett, but I don't quite condone killing the mistresses. I get that it's personal, they fucked in your home, in your bed, but they don't owe you anything, that's on your piece of shit husband. But yeah, the movie brought Pinhead and Kirsty back together, but it didn't mean anything. They may as well have been strangers. Anyone could have made that offer to Pinhead and he'd take it. There was no reason to bring back Kirsty aside from fan service. Apparently there is a deleted scene of an extended conversation where they talk about Julia, Frank, and Larry, and it shows more of the other Cenobites. I have no idea what led them to deleting it, but it's a shame they did. It's a complete disservice to her character and her relationship with Pinhead. And what was with the whole camera you're being watched theme? It didn't make any sense or add anything to the movie. I could really go on and on about the things I hate about Hellseeker, but let me try to end on a high note. The practical effects were limited, but all looked good as usual. My boy Gary Tunnicliffe doesn't disappoint. I guess it's nice they tried to tie the movie to the rest. Inferno had no real ties to the previous four, so this one at least felt connected. The two-headed cop was certainly unique, I guess. I don't know, guys, this one was pretty difficult. I've heard quite a few people say this one is one of their favorites. Hell, even Clive Barker says this is his third favorite. I'm not sure if it's in my bottom, but it's definitely not top tier. Maybe I'll have more luck with Deader. I just hope it isn't as bad as its title. Well, thanks for tuning in, y'all. As always, I'm Noah Hook, and this has been Hamburgers and Horror. See you next time.